We continue. This is part 4 of a relationship series. We're looking at and seeing through and from the relationship between husband and wife is one that is in Scripture, that's very clear, but it gives us a type of all relationships. It happens to be that marriage is the most intimate sort of relationship. It's part of family, but it pictures union, oneness. Because as Jesus reminded the Pharisees when they pressed him about divorce, and as we see very much in Genesis, which he says, have you not read in the beginning? The whole purpose and the point was that the two become one. And in that was the reminder and a rehearsal of union, oneness with God. And truly, each of us individually growing deeper in that oneness with him. And that's what makes marriage so significant. But that is just the nature of relationship. All of the gospel is about relationship because God is a relational God. We have a relational gospel, a good news. It's all about relationship, which is Jesus becoming a man to bring us back into that relationship with our Father in heaven, with God, that we had originally in the beginning, that was interrupted by Adam's mistakes and delusion. And that has been carried on where we have wrong concepts of God, we have wrong relationship, we have inserted things into relationship that destroys relationship. And one of those things, as we were talking about, is the notion of a hierarchy, having someone who is in charge and is asserting authority over someone. That's not the picture of relationship. Even when you examine what Jesus did as a man, and when he came, he didn't come, he spoke as one with authority. And the authority was he spoke truth without backing away from it, without backing down from it. But he never spoke with authority by enforcing and requiring someone to do something in a certain way. He invited, he gave opportunity, and he allowed people to make choices. This is what God does because he is a God of relationship. And so when we get into the marriage relationship, which is also picturing relationship with friends, siblings, other ones within family, and so on and so forth, it's the same basic relationship. The dynamics in terms of leadership, doing what's right, having truly the authority, which is the representation of Jesus, the fullness of Christ formed within me. But it's also not just leadership, it's also submission. It's mutual, submitting one to another. This is what actually defines the relationship within the Godhead, that this is what we see, is it's not some one individual or somehow part of God is more important or greater than another part. It is mutual and it is relational. To further back this up, in 1 Peter, in chapter 2, the Apostle Peter speaking of Jesus, giving us an example to follow, how he submitted to being treated wrong when he had not done wrong. And Peter says that this is our calling, that we have been given this same calling. When he gets to chapter 3, he starts with the word likewise. That's in verse 1. What's this likewise? Well, he's speaking in here in verse 1, specifically he addresses wives, but he says likewise. So in the same way, like Jesus, he's saying you as a wife should behave like Jesus. But since we're all enjoined to follow Jesus, this individual instruction to wives is not just for married women. The likewise says this is the very nature and likeness of Jesus. So he's saying, wives, let yourself be defined by the fullness of Christ in you, growing up in him who is the head in all things. And what he says then, because he uses that word likewise in this whole context in verse 1, is this is applicable to everyone. So when he says in verse 1 of chapter 3 of 1 Peter, wives, likewise. Be submissive to your own husbands. And when we realize that this relationship direction, instruction, advice, guidance isn't just about husbands and wives, it's about any two or more individuals in relationship. Be like Jesus. Be like Jesus. And Jesus was not dictatorial. Jesus was not violent. Jesus was not do it my way or else, in the sense that he was very accommodating. He was very submissive, submitting even unto death when he had done no wrong. So he's telling wives to submit to their own husbands. He's telling you to submit to others, that even if some do not obey the word, they without a word may be won by the conduct of their wives, may be won by your conduct. So you see what's happening? By being submissive, by being like Jesus, I set an example that even if others are walking contrary, not being obedient, they are impacted and affected by my example. So even in submission, I am being a leader. And that's something to think about, that in submission is true leadership. And that just echoes what Jesus said about the true leader, the one who's really a leader, is the servant.